I'm doing an initial look at the lens I'm most excited with, the GF80mm f1.7. This is the lens I'm looking for on the medium format system. I'm Richard and welcome to Zappy Productions, and what I have here is the GF80mm f1.7 by Fujifilm mounted on my GFX100. Now, this is loaned to me by Fujifilm Singapore, so this is an early copy, editor's sample, I believe that's what they wrote on the box there. And I also have the GFX100S, but that's for another video. I'll talk about it maybe tomorrow or the day after. Now, the GF80mm f1.7 is my most anticipated piece of equipment for this year, and the reason is simple. On the GFX100, it is slightly shorter, it is slightly faster, allowing you to handhold this monster with better accuracy, better sharpness, and overall more different and I guess sometimes more pleasing image because it's closer to the human eye. That's at least my take on this 63mm equivalent, I believe, or 63 or 62mm equivalent lens. Now, this 80mm f1.7, as I said, is my most anticipated lens for a few reasons. Firstly, f1.7. This allows me to get a bokeh that is slightly, I would say, as dreamier than the f2 GF110. But of course, the total amount of bokeh is about the same because considering that this is a shorter lens. Now, one of the best part of the GF80mm is that it is slightly shorter and slightly smaller. At first, I thought it was quite small. I mean, I went online and checked, oh, they say it's a smaller lens, but when I actually hold it in my hand, it's not that small. Let me show you with comparison to GF110. Now, side by side, let me put side by side for you. Side by side, you can tell that the 110 is a taller lens. It is also a bigger lens, but it's not a thicker lens. This GF80mm has a 77mm filter thread, and the barrel itself, if not wrong, is slightly thicker, but it is a shorter lens. And the hood is also shorter, so making it an all-round slightly smaller lens, if you ask me, compared to the GF110. Now, of course, this is a GFX lens, so in terms of general build quality, it is smooth. You know, it has a smooth focusing ring, which is not very useful because this is focused by wire. It has an aperture ring, which is nice and clicky. A little bit, you know, I would say as it has good amount of tension because it's probably brand new or something. But overall, I think it's quite nice to use. Though I always want to say that they should allow the locking of the aperture ring. And then the hood is those that requires you to lock, same as all the high-end GFX lenses. And then there's a 77mm front filter thread, and you can see this lens is a bit short, stubby, and a bit thick. Now, when it comes to autofocus, I would say as the autofocus itself is pretty okay. On the GFX100, I tried it a few times here and there, shooting indoor, outdoor. I won't comment on this video because I think that requires more testing, but it feels okay for the initial test. Image stabilization is the same, feels okay for initial test. I will do a more in-depth review in my next video because I only have this lens for next like 4 days. So I'll probably have one in-depth review on Sunday or Monday to really talk about this lens more in-depth into things like autofocus and its image stabilization on the GFX100 and also on the GFX100S. Now, the most important part, of course, is image quality. This is a GFX lens, and we come to expect certain amount of quality from a GFX lens. Now, I have to say something first. In terms of sharpness, let's talk about sharpness first. In terms of sharpness, the GF80mm here is very sharp. I'll say as at wide open, it doesn't lose to any lens other than maybe the GF110 and the GF250mm. Compared to everything else in GFX range, be it the 63, 45, it looks about the same. It is sharp all the way to the edge, except for the extreme corner, like the last maybe 5% at the corner. That is a little bit smearing, a little bit soft. But that is the very extreme corner that nobody probably put things there. And that is, of course, at f1.7. I did not try it stop down, so that is something I lack time to try. But I can tell you that at f1.7 compared to the GF110, it just lacked a little bit of contrast. It has a very, very slight glow effect, but the amount of detail and sharpness is there. And I can tell you that you can actually use images shot with this 80mm at 200% and still feel it's okay on the GFX100, which means it is fully resolving every single pixel on the GFX100, making it a very sharp and usable lens. In fact, let me show you this portrait I've done here. Of course, this shot is done for the purpose of my other video channel, which is Utao, a channel for cover singers. I shot this particular photo for the cover of the song itself, and let me show you 200% zoom in. Look at the eyes, look at the lashes. You can still probably use it at 200% zoom. Don't forget, this is the GFX100. It is a 100 megapixel sensor. A 200% zoom will probably equate to something like 200 megapixels, right? it's still pretty much usable if you ask me. So this lens here, the GF80mm f1.7, if you're looking at it from the sharpness angle, it is definitely really, really good. Now, I would say as from the chromatic aberration angle, however, it is probably one of the lower lenses. What I mean by lower is because the chromatic aberration on this lens in normal shooting mode is pretty okay. I mean, I shot the building just now. Do you see any CA? Probably not. If you go into the highlights and the buildings, you probably also don't see any CA. Now, however, you can actually coax the CA out. I mean, you can force the CA to come out from various ways. Firstly, the lens, if you are shooting in very bright highlights like glowing bulbs, there is CA. Let me show you this photo here. You'll see a little bit of CA on these glowing bulbs. It is reddish, it is slightly greenish depending on what is the plane of focus. But you can see CA in those situations. And this lens also suffers from a little bit of loca. I mean, among all the GFX lenses which doesn't have any loca, most of them, I mean, the 110 is probably perfect. The 250mm is close to perfect. Everything else has slightly little loca, but it's very minimal. The GF80mm does exhibit a little bit more than them. And you can see in this photo here, look at the mic, and you can see a little bit of CA or loca in the defocus area of the mic, especially in the silvery regions. So I would say as optically, this lens is extremely sharp as a GF lens gets, but in terms of chromatic aberration, it is not one of the best performing lens on the GFX system for chromatic aberration itself. But of course, we're nitpicking here. Look at the amount of chromatic aberration. I'm zooming in like 100% or 200% to show you CA on the 100 megapixel sensor. So take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, the CA here is no worse than probably the RF50mm or even the RF85mm f2, which I feel is a very usable lens. So I'll tell you that this lens is probably better than both of them significantly, considering that it is resolving 100 megapixels, unlike those lenses which are only resolving 45 megapixels on the R5. So if you ask me from the optical standpoint, this is still probably one of the best lenses you can ever get in the market. However, on the GFX scale, this is one of the sharpest lens, but not the most corrected lens itself. Now, the reason why you don't do correction is sometimes because you want to have certain style, certain bokeh, certain look. I do not have time to bring this lens and camera out for outdoor photo shoot because I just got this set up like 5 hours ago. I mean, the only shot I did was just now for the cover photo. So I have to bring this out and really test it out and then bring you guys back the results of whether the CA, is it a big deal outdoor or not? Does it really matter to you? Or maybe, you know, we are just overblowing stuff. I mean, my friend was quite touchy because he saw CA in the glow, and I can show you just now the images. Yes, there is CA when the bulbs or lights are really, really bright. But if not, I did not spot any significant CA in normal shooting conditions. So really, I have to test this out and get back to you guys on how good is it. But once again, if you are looking for a high-end portraiture lens, at least my initial test with this is that as long as you can live with just a little CA, this is probably very pop, very nice, and very smooth of a lens on the medium format GFX 100 sensor. And that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Just want to bring you a quick look at this GF80mm f1.7 because I think it's a really great lens. But you know, overall, I think everybody has been too much looking into the CA itself because on the GFX lens, rarely is there any CA. So for f1.7 lens with that amount of CA, I think it's probably okay, and I will highly recommend this lens. At least with my initial look, I kind of love this really. My final review will probably be up in 5 days time, so take a look at that to really know how does this GF80mm perform on the GFX 100. And that's about it for today. I hope you enjoy this, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.